it is time to see if I know my own reading tastes, I guess, and see if I was right with some of my 5-star predictions. Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is going to be me reacting to my 5-star predictions video that I did earlier on this year. It was actually quite a bit further back in the year than I thought it was. I think it was in about May time. So not only do I get to react to this, but I also get to see how awkward I was in videos earlier on, more towards the start of my channel, which is fantastic. So I'm going to rewatch this video and I'm going to see, because I believe, I'm hoping I've read everything that is on this video now, so I'm going to see if I was correct in thinking that these would be 5 stars. I know that some of them definitely were, I know that some of them definitely weren't. I don't think I was like ridiculously wrong in anything. I think the ones that didn't get 5 stars were 4, I think. I'm hoping, because I really like to think that I do know what I'm gonna like in books. But yes, I am going to react to these today. I have a whole new set of 5-star predictions that will be coming your way tomorrow, but I wanted to just go over these. I haven't actually mentioned, this is Bookmas. Bookmas is where I am putting up a new video every day up until Christmas Day, so there are 25 consecutive videos. So like I said, tomorrow will be the new 5-star predictions, but for today we are going to react to the ones that I have already done and see whether or not I know my reading tastes. So without further ado, I'm going to try with the editing to put the video here so you can watch it as well, but I've got my little headphones in so that I can watch it, and I have the video all loaded up. I look a lot different than I do here now. I mean, the hair colour for one thing, but still. Anyway, let's see whether or not I knew my reading taste, shall we? Really hope I love these books. Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today I am going to talk through some books that I really hope are going to be 5 stars. I love watching these videos because I think it gives you an insight into what people's reading tastes are and also kind of how they approach going into a book. I still love watching these types of videos, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there, because it's always good when you have those books that you're like, okay, I think I'm really going to love this. I mean, I was picking the books for this video and I have plenty of books on my shelf, but there's not many that I would say I think this is going to be 5 stars. And I'm still struggling with that, because you'll see in tomorrow's I struggled with the ones that I picked for that. I don't know why I'm so pessimistic about the books on my shelves. So it's been really fun to sort of narrow that down and go, oh, actually no, these are the ones I'm really excited for. Anyway, enough with the babbling, let's just talk about what books I think I'm going to... I like how I say enough with the babbling, and yet I babble so much more than this now in all my videos. So sorry, you're just gonna get me talking at you. I'm babbling right now. Back to this video. To love. I do plan, by the way, on reading these books this year, hopefully. I'm vlogging each one, and then we'll do a little bit of a check-in and see how we get on and whether or not these are actually 5 stars, because again, that's what this is. This is my check-in. I told you I was going to do it. Also really fun to see whether or not... I don't know if I vlogged every one of them. It actually lived up to the hype, I suppose. So yes, let's see which books they are. The first one actually I'm going to talk about, I don't have here, so I will insert a picture. The first couple actually are pre-orders, so I do have them coming soon. I'm that excited about them that I'm pre-ordering them, so I would hope they're going to be 5 stars. The first one being One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. We are 1 for 1. I did in fact give this one 5 stars. I'm going to watch the reasons why I thought this would be 5 stars in a minute, and then I will let you know what my actual thoughts were. But I can confirm this was in fact a 5-star book. So this book, I will say actually before I go into this, I won't have the best synopsis for a lot of these because I tend to not know too much going into. I mean, I don't have the best synopsis of things when I have read the book. But I will do the best I can. What I know of this book is it's basically about a girl who lives in New York, and she ends up meeting another girl on the subway who is trapped in time, and she's from the 70s, I believe, and it's a love story between those two. For anyone who isn't aware of who Casey McQuiston is, have you been living under a rock? She wrote Red, White and Royal Blue, which was everywhere on BookTube a couple of years ago. Red, White and Royal Blue is book that I reach for whenever I need a pick-me-up. I've read it about 5 times now. I plan on rereading it again in June during Whatever-a-thon, and I also plan on reading One Last Stop in June during Whatever-a-thon. I'm so excited for this book. If it's anywhere near as good as Red, White and Royal Blue, it will be 5 stars for me. That's basically the only reason why I'm saying it will be, just because I loved that first book so much. I really hope this one is as well. So yes, it was a 5-star. It was a lot of it because I really love Casey McQuiston's writing style, as evidenced by my love of Red, White and Royal Blue, which I did not reread in Whatever-a-thon, but I did read One Last Stop. So I really love how Casey McQuiston writes friendship groups. There is a friendship group in Red, White and Royal Blue, but particularly in One Last Stop, there is this whole sort of found family vibe that happens with the flatmates of August, the main character. And I really loved that. I did like the relationship as well, but I feel like I wasn't quite as invested in that as I was in Red, White and Royal Blue. But the friendship aspect of this book was fantastic, and I really loved it. And I really liked as well because it had a mystical element to it. Sometimes when you have that in a romance book, they kind of skirt over it and they don't really give you like any real explanation of it. It's just kind of there. I read another book in a similar time actually of the year that had a mystical element to it, and there literally was no explanation whatsoever, and it was only used when it was convenient for them. Whereas this one, I feel like that was the mystery around that was a central part of it as well. It also had a lot to do with the history of sort of LGBTQ plus like culture and society, and I really loved that as well. And I just thought it was a very well done book, and I'm happy to report I gave it 5 stars. I mean, I've just done, like I said, my 5-star predictions that you'll see tomorrow, and I don't think I put any pre-orders on there, but realistically Ike Shara Wheeler probably should be on there as well, because if Casey McQuiston's track record is anything to go by, anything by her from me is probably going to be a 5-star. Right, let's see what the next one was, shall we? On the other pre-order that I have that I hope will be 5 stars, it is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So Taylor, I believe, I will double check, but I believe that this one was also a 5-star. Jenkins Reid has wrote quite a few books actually, but the 2 that I've read of hers are Daisy Jones and the Six and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I believe that Malibu Rising actually takes place in the same world as Daisy Jones and the Six. It tells the story of a family who... It actually takes place in the same world as 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I got them mixed up. We live in that sort of Hollywood, well, Malibu environment. I believe their dad is one of the record producers maybe from Daisy Jones. He was actually one of the husbands from 7 Husbands. He's somebody like an industry person in that they are the kids, and basically they have a big party, and then I think something happens at the party. Again, don't know too much about this one, just know that the party aspect of it is actually less important, but I didn't know that until I read it. 2 books from Taylor Jenkins Reid that I've read. I gave 5 stars to both of them. I love them both. They both kind of wrecked me a little bit, but that's not a bad thing. Hopefully this one is going to be 5 stars as well. So yeah, I've just checked, that one was a 5-star as well. So what I will say is that going into this, not really knowing too much about the synopsis, it was very much what you were told about it was very much centred around the fact that there was this big party that this family had every year, and this year this party gets out of hand and there ends up being a fire. And what actually happened in this book, the party doesn't start until a good 2/3 of the way in, and a lot of it is about the build-up, and it's about these sort of interpersonal relationships between these siblings in this family, because essentially they are all siblings who, father was a famous, I want to say singer, but the father was famous anyway, but he wasn't necessarily the most involved in their lives. So they've kind of grown up around this society but not really in it as well, and it's just about the sort of interpersonal relationships between these siblings. There's a lot of drama going on, and I loved it. I love that it was a character-driven book, because I love character-driven books, and I think that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes some fantastic characters, so I just really love that aspect of it. And you've seen that from the last one I talked about. I like characters, I like relationships. I don't really care if it hasn't got the biggest plot line, and this one didn't have the biggest plot line, and what I talked about there, what I knew of the plot, said wasn't that important, and that is fine, because what it was so good. And yes, I did give it 5 stars. Then the next ones that I have are actually books I have physically, and I've tried to be a little bit diverse with sort of the types of books that I have here. So I've started off with middle grade actually, which I don't read a lot of middle grade, but I'm very, very excited for this one, and that is Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow by Benjamin Dean.
This one was not a 5-star, this was a very high 4-star, and I will get into my reasons why in a second.
So this tells the story of a young boy whose parents are split up and he doesn't quite know why, but he knows the answer might lie at the end of the rainbow. Essentially his dad is gay, and it's about him discovering more about that and the LGBT community. I just think this sounds adorable, and if it is as well done as I hope it will be, I think it has potential to be a very, very highly rated book from me. I've heard very, very good things about it. It's been getting a lot of buzz, so hopefully this one you'll see it as a 5-star read soon. Again, I'm hoping to read this one in June.
So I gave this one 4-star. I said it's very high 4-star. I do struggle sometimes with middle grade just because obviously I'm not the intended audience, and I think that was part of what was the issue with this one, but also just that some of the things I wanted to just have a little bit more to. It was a lot of them just sort of, basically the storyline is that the boy finds a flyer in his dad's pocket which is for Pride, so he ends up running away to London to go to the Pride March, and when he's there he sort of gets separated from his friends and things like that, and it's just about him sort of going through Pride and seeing all these different people within the LGBTQ plus community and figuring out what that community is going to be in his life going forward. And it was really, really good. I'm really glad that this book exists. I think it's fantastic that books like this are now being written for children, because for a lot of years anything that mentioned LGBTQ plus themes would not have been allowed to be given to children. So I'm really glad that these books exist, but I just think that there could have just been a little bit more. I felt like a lot of it was sort of just walking through this Pride parade, and I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I just wanted a little bit more from it. It got a little bit, it took a while to even get to that point as well. So it was, some of the pacing was just a little bit off. That's the only reason why it wasn't a 5-star. Like I said, I think the subject matter is fantastic. I'm very happy that the book exists. I think it's fantastic for children, just couldn't quite be a 5-star for me.
Next up, I've gone for a bit of a fantasy, and this one's been on my TBR for a while and I just keep not picking it up, and that is Girls of Paper and Fire.
Another one that unfortunately did not get 5 stars. This is actually, I've just finished this one like yesterday, and that's what meant I could film this video. So I have fresh thoughts on this one that I will give you momentarily.
So I got this one in a Fairy Loot ages ago. It's got the beautiful pink sprayed edges. I don't even remember exactly what it's about. Yeah, I believe it's about some sort of competition where the girls are competing to be the king's consort, but then there's a sapphic love story, I believe, between two of the competitors. I don't know much about it. I've just heard very, very good things, and what I have heard has really piqued my interest, so hopefully this is going to be as good as I think it's going to be, and we'll see. I hope I do finally get around to reading it this year.
So it isn't actually about a competition. It is about a world where there are these 3 castes. So there are demons, and then there are sort of the in-between demons and humans, like mixed race, and then there are humans. The humans are at the bottom of the ladder, so they are called the paper caste. And every year, the Demon King picks 8 girls who are going to be his paper girls, and they are essentially the king's concubines. So there are, like I said, 8 of them, and there is kind of like a rivalry between them, because some of them want to be considered like the king's favourite and things like that. But also a lot of it is about consent and about the fact that these girls don't actually want to be there. And there is a sapphic love story. It is about a sort of forbidden romance between 2 of the girls in there, and it's also about like an uprising as well with to sort of get rid of the king. And the problem I had with this book, I gave it a 4 stars. I don't dislike it. I really enjoyed it. I'm carrying on with the series. It's a trilogy. I have the second one on its way, and the third one I'm getting from Fairy Loot early next year. But my issue basically is that this has some very, very heavy topics. It deals with consent and sexual abuse and rape and things like that, and I feel like because it's a YA book, it did just have to hold back a little bit on really discussing those matters and discussing sort of the aftermath of those and how that can really damage a person. Now, obviously, I don't know if it goes more into that later on in the series, but I just felt like the first one did kind of gloss over some of it, and I didn't want it to be sort of too like gritty, realistic depictions of it. I didn't need to know the specifics in the moment of what was happening, but I feel like it sort of very quickly moved on afterwards, after this particular one scene with the main character, and it's alluded to a lot that something happened, but then it's moved on very quickly and sort of goes back into the almost like rivalry with some of the other girls within the paper girls, and I feel like it glossed over some of the very important subject matters a bit too quickly. So I very much enjoyed it. I just wish it could have been an adult book, because I think it could have done so much more written for an adult audience.
And then I have two more, well, three, but one of them's kind of a bonus. But the next one is a contemporary, and that is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo.
So I haven't actually read all of these. So this video is a bit ridiculous because I haven't actually read all these books. I thought I had, but I have not read With the Fire on High. So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to listen to me talk through this, because I may be able to fit this in before this video goes up.
So I have read two other Elizabeth Acevedo books. I have read The Poet X and Clap When You Land. I loved both of those books. I did start reading this, but I only read like a chapter and then put it down because I just wasn't in the mood for it. I think I'm a little bit scared of reading it, mainly because her other two books have been told in verse, so they've been poetry based, and that's part of the reason why I love them, is that I can kind of fly through them. I really loved her poetry style. This one isn't. This one is actually in prose, and I think I'm a bit scared of not liking the writing style quite as much. But if it is anything like her other books, then I will love it, and I have heard very, very good things about this one. So this tells the story of the main character in this one wants to be a chef, and she has a 2-year-old daughter. She's 17 years old, she has a 2-year-old.
Some really weird editing going on here where I just don't cut out things where I clearly trip over my words a few times.
Daughter, she wants to be a chef, and I believe it's basically just about her life, and with that's all I really know about it, and that's all I want to know. But I do think if it's as good as the other ones, I will absolutely love it.
So like I said, I'm going to try and read this before I put this video out, so I will insert a clip here letting you know my thoughts on it. Okay, so I just finished With the Fire on High, and I'm happy to report that it was in fact a 5-star book. I really, really loved this book. Although it's the only book of Elizabeth Acevedo's that I've read that wasn't in prose, it still felt very sort of poetic, it still felt very lyrical, and I really loved the sort of pacing of that. Really loved the characters. The main character was very, very easy to root for, and I loved her voice throughout it. I loved all of the sort of references to cooking. I've read other books of cooking in before, and they kind of just felt like a recipe book, whereas this one, actually, the way that it was intertwined into the story, I felt worked very, very well. I think it discussed a lot of sort of important topics without kind of just preaching at you about them. I just really liked it. It was very character driven. It was very much just a slice of this girl's life, and I loved it. There's not really much else to say. I just really, really adored this book, and I'm happy to say that it was 5 stars.
And then, like I said, for the last one, it's really the last two, because one of these I hope will be a 5-star, and that is The Night Circus and The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern.
So I have only read one of these so far, but I still wanted to do this video because from what I know, these are two very different books anyway, even though they are by the same author. So I've read one of them, and I can confirm that that one was 5-star. It was The Night Circus. I will talk a little bit more about the other one in tomorrow's video. So I still want to react to this because I think this clip is actually me talking more about The Night Circus anyway.
So I haven't read anything, as you can see, by Erin Morgenstern, but I own both of her books. I do not really know anything about either of those. I know Night Circus is obviously set at a circus. I know Starless Sea is a book about books, from what I know. But I don't want to know anything else, because all I do know about these is that they both feature very beautiful lyrical writing. I love beautiful lyrical writing. One of my favourite writers is Laini Taylor. And from other people who on BookTube who love these books, I do have similar book tastes too, so I'm hoping that I love them as much as those people do seem to. And I think that's, again, I've had these for a while, I've not picked them up, and I think it's because I'm scared I'm not going to love them as much as I plan to.
So yeah, very much so. I was scared of reading these because I had heard things from people I trusted that were very, very good, but I'd also heard things that said it just wasn't for that particular person. And while I thought I would fall on the side of really loving it, I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't. I am happy to confirm that I did really, really enjoy The Night Circus. I gave it 5 stars, which is fantastic. I'm doing quite well. I mean, so far I think there's just a 2. Obviously, I don't know how I felt about With the Fire on High, but there's just the 2 that were ones that were a little bit more iffy anyway. The ones that I was most sort of thinking would be a 5-star were Night Circus, because of the writing, and it was a writing style that I really loved. It was also because of the characters. We're coming back to this again and again. I love books for characters. So basically with this one, I think part of the reason why a lot of people wouldn't love it is that it sounds like, if you read the synopsis, it can sound like it has this really big fantastical plot about magicians that are fighting each other, and it does, but it doesn't at the same time. That is a storyline, but it's a very quiet story. It is more about characters and about this romance between two characters, and I feel like that's what it is that people go in expecting it to be a lot bigger than it is, and it's very quiet and very contained, and that's the sort of book that I like. So absolutely amazing writing style, so lyrical, so beautiful. I really loved it, but I can understand why people wouldn't. I haven't read Starless Sea yet, but like I said, I will talk more about that one tomorrow. That is still a 5-star prediction, even though I know that Night Circus and Starless Sea are supposed to be two very, very different books, but at least I liked one of them. So 1 out of 2, if that is the case, isn't bad really, is it? But yeah, I think what I'm gathering from this, I think that is, I'm going to check there's nothing else I talk about in here, but I think what I'm gathering from this is that I read books for characters, and characters is generally what makes or breaks it for me. Characters and then just some nice writing, that's all I really need. I don't need a massive plot as long as it's got that. If it doesn't have that, then I will start to pick apart things where the plot goes wrong. So in terms of the two that I didn't give 5 stars, Me, My Dad and the End of the Rainbow was fine, but there wasn't anything particularly about the characters that dragged me in. So then I noticed that the plot just meandered a little bit. Girls of Paper and Fire, again, the characters were fine, but I didn't particularly attach to any of them so much because we didn't go sort of deep enough into how they were feeling in this particularly horrible situation they've been put in, so I couldn't connect to them enough, and that I feel like would have been better had we been able to just delve into their sort of reactions a little bit more, had it been written for an older audience. So yeah, characters is definitely something that I pay a lot of attention to. Right, I don't think I'm saying anything else now, that's just my outro, which is what I'm going to do here as well. What I've figured out is that I do have an idea of my reading taste. Like I said, the ones that got 4 stars very much could have been 5 stars if they'd just been handled a little bit better. They both had the potential to be 5 stars. Like, there were things about them that were exactly what I wanted from those books, but there were also things that I just didn't quite love, and it was more to do with the execution than with the actual story or the premise or anything like that. So I know what I like in books in terms of stories and characters. I just, obviously, I don't know whether they're going to be executed well until I actually read them. That is what I'm finding out. So yes, that is my reaction to my 5 stars. If you would like to see my new round of 5-star predictions, then please join me tomorrow where I will have those. Obviously, you already know that Starless Sea is one of them, but there are 4 others for you to see what they are. And I can't even remember what they are because I filmed that video last week. I really should write these down so that I don't end up with this again where I've not actually read one of them. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. Let me know how you go with sort of 5-star predictions. Do you generally tend to like know your reading taste? Do things sort of live up to the hype? Or do you feel like there's a lot of books where you think they're going to be really good and then they just don't quite get there? Right, that is everything. I will see you guys tomorrow with some more 5-star predictions and a new video. Bye.